Hi y'all, this is Regina. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing a test stitch on a greeting card for Valentine's. I know it's getting kind of tight here, um, but it's really cute. And I wanted to show you some hooping information that might be beneficial for you. Hang on. All right, so uh, as usual, I've cut a piece of cardstock in half. Um, the long way. Hang on. All right, so I had a piece of cardstock, 8.5 by 11, folded it over sideways, and cut right down the center here. Okay, so I end up with this. So I measure in here 2 3/4, and I put a little mark. And I do the same thing on the bottom. And then I measure across here 4 1/4, and I put a little mark, top and bottom, to help me center this, to make sure that, I'm stitching in the middle and I'm going to have plenty of cardstock left on the side to cut. So my hoops have a little mark in them. And I used to think that this was the centering mark. No, it's not. These two up here, the ones on the side are, but these two up here are not centered. Why would you put marks on the hoop to help you center when these are not centered? It just, it irritates me. So there's my template. This one is centered, but when you look at your hoop, these little marks are off center. So anytime you're hooping, you're going to have to know that your center point, vertical center point, is just the other side of these marks. These little raised marks on the hoop, top and bottom. So what I do is I use my template to help me center this piece of cardstock. So I know that I use this. If I line up my little marks on the edges for the horizontal piece with my little marks on my hoop, it's centered. But if I lined up the center marks on my paper with these, it wouldn't be centered. So they have to scooch over just the other side, and with having my shelf liner on here, I have to lift it up. So they have to scooch over just the other side of those marks. So let me see here. Let me put this back in. Oops, I got it on here backwards. Okay, so that, where I put the cardstock, lined up perfectly. So just know that you're going to be lining up the other side of the marks on your hoop. If you haven't been using your templates, you need to use your templates. All right, so I'm not going to disturb this cardstock because it's lined up perfectly. And I'm going to go back to the machine. All right, so I've lowered my foot and I'm still not centered. So I'm going to move my design in my machine, go down until it looks like I'm centered in that mark. Go back over. All right, so now I'm centered. I'm still on my little marks here, and this one has moved, so I'm just going to use my tweezers and move it back over. Whoops, too far. Hello. No, I'll have to pull it back this way just a teensy bit. And it's not going to hurt too much because you're going to be cutting some of the cardstock off. And let me just look at this one up here. So that up there, it's this one down here that's still not centered. I'm just gonna try to barely scooch it over, and that worked. Okay. So in my move, it got moved over just a tad, and I'm still centered on my template. So my design is centered. All right, so the first stitch that's going to go, the first stitch out that's going to go is a tack down to tack down this cardstock. And I'm going to move it to the first position, and I'm just barely going to hold my cardstock down. You could put some double-sided tape on the other side of your cardstock to hold it in place. Let's toss some thread. If you wanted, because you could put it right on the corners, on a couple of the corners, and that'd hold it. I've done that before. The tack down is finished, and I'm not changing threads because I put in the thread color that is going to be used for the frame, which is part of the actual design, not the tack down. And it's some little hearts that stitch out, and I'm going to do them in pink. So color number 2 is the actual start of the design, and it is the frame around the heart and everything. I'm going to trim this tail. And I'm using tearaway stabilizer, hooped, and a 9014 from Dime, 65, something from Schmitz, I think. And a 65.9 if you use a Schmitz. Alright, so I will be back when this is done. Now the total stitch time, my machine is telling me 13 minutes at 600 and something stitches per minute. Alright, I've changed my thread colors. The little hearts around the outside have stitched, and I have changed my needle to the Schmitz 65.9. I'm going to see if that resolves some issues that I've had. Alright, and I've changed thread because we're on color stop number 3, which is going to stitch the heart. And it's got a little motif that looks like windows. And so I'm going to call this Windows to My Heart. Oh, hello. I need to get that thread. Got caught in the stitching. Whoa, my bad. No, I don't want to raise that needle, but I do want to get that thread out of there. There we go. Okay. Start this up again. So you can kind of get an idea of how this stitches. And it's just a little motif stitch. Like I said, to me it looks like a window. I don't know how much of that you can see. Let me turn this camera around a little bit. Let it get stitched a little bit more. able to kind of see a little bit more of the design. And by the magic of video, here is the heart all stitched out. I've changed my thread color to green because it's going to oh my goodness, going to stitch the stems of the flowers. And my dogs are having a cow out there in the hall because there's a man measuring the fence line or something in our neighbor's yard across the street. And I'm going to just have a fit here in a minute if they don't hush. Alright, so here are the little stems for the flowers they've stitched. Alright, so my stems have stitched in both places here and here. I've changed thread, and the 65-9 Schmetz needle is much better than the 90-14 that I was using, so I suggest using a 65-9. Alright, so let me start the flowers. And yes, it looks much better with that needle. Thread and let it finish doing. Now the flowers have a little motif in them, and there shouldn't be any stopping and cutting, fingers crossed, because I had to make a change on it after stitching it out one time. I made a change to this motif because it was too small, too dense. I mean, it didn't cut the paper or anything, but so I'm going to have two versions. I'm going to have this version, which is just an open heart, and I've made a couple little changes on here, and I was using that 65-9 needle, and I'm going to restitch this one, but it looks, it'll look very similar to this. And then this was the one that I did before. You see how tight this motif was. I like it open better. So what I think I'm going to do is I will give you a version that doesn't have any text in here, and you can write from whoever or to whomever if you want. This particular version will stitch out I love you, and then you could put another piece of cardstock on the back. Instead of having one that opens up, you'll just have a piece on the back, and I'll show you in a minute what mine's going to be. Alright, so the flowers are stitching. And this is color stock number 5. 4 was the leaves, or the stems, rather, of the flower. I have changed threads to kind of a silver color to stitch the arrow here and here. So, stop this and going to stitch a little motif on the arrow to kind of give it some definition. Now it's going to go down here and do the feathers. You could stitch this out in brown or gold or red if you wanted. I just wanted to do a different color other than red, so it wouldn't be so intense with red on it. So the next color is going to be for the centers of the flowers. And I'm going to use the same pink that I used for the frame. You could do it in a hot pink, which I think on one of them I did it in a hot pink. But I picked up and threaded the light pink, so. Four little circles to put the center of the flowers. We'll go down and do the other two now. Okay, and we're almost through with the flower. All right, so let me change threads. All right, I've put in a different color red than what this heart part was stitched. And this is just going to stitch I love you. Okay, I'm going to wait to get that. I'm not going to cut that thread. I'm going to stop this because I need to pull this thread up and cut it so I can cut the tail. Off. There we go. Because I was holding that tail, it got stitched over. correctly connected that O, but it wasn't too far away, I guess. And it's going to jump over here and do the eye. And then we'll be done. And I'll show you what I'm going to do to the back now. Since this is just half of the 8.5 by 11, where before on the other videos I've used the whole sheet, left it intact, and just stitched on half of it. So there it is. Let me get over to the craft table. So I've unhooped it. What I'm doing is I'm going along the back and I'm just trim. You don't have to do this. I just like to. Sorry about the phone. And I'm just cutting about every 6th stitch of the bobbin thread on the part that goes to tack down the cardstock. Like I said, you don't have to do this. I just prefer to do it. So you get to watch me snip these threads. Did I do it on there? So let's see here. Let's just get this thread that's loose. And it just comes right out. There we go. All right, so I'm going to tear off the stabilizer. Get this thread out of my way. And I'm going to go this way with it and hold down on the stitching just to make sure. What in the world? Just a moment. All right, so I'm just tearing the stabilizer off of where it stitched the thread, the frame. I'm not really concerned about the other stabilizer that's on the card. I'm just tearing it away from the part that stitched the frame. You could trim this with your scissors, but make sure that you're holding the stitches so you don't accidentally pull anything out. So there's really not any great big threads on there that I need to cut. And we're going to, oh geez. All right, sorry about that. Somebody calling at my gate. So we want the card to fit into this envelope, which is 5 1/4 by 7 1/4. I bought these at Hobby Lobby, and there's 100 pieces in here, so I have a lot of envelopes. And as you can see, here's a card that I did before, and it fits inside this card. I mean, this envelope. Okay. This is Penny, stop. This is the umbrella with the flowers that I have on my Etsy shop. Etsy, however you pronounce it. So we want it to fit in this envelope. Now, this card right here, I left a little border on the outside of white, and I used my wavy rotary blade to cut this one with. All right, now this was one of the very first cards I did. It says happy birthday, and I didn't stitch it in a color that showed up very well, but I just cut it straight outside the frame. So I think because this has hearts on it, I'm just going to cut it straight. And we want to cut it just right outside the hearts, but line it up. I guess I better get down here. All right, so I'm going to cut it just outside the heart area. So I've put my 1/4 inch on the bottom of the hearts. And let's see here, just out of curiosity, if I do that and cut it a 1/4 inch, it's going to be 6 3/4. Okay. 6 3/4 high, and 4 3/8. Let's see if I do that. All right, so I'm going to put my ruler just above the bottom of the hearts, and I'm just going to cut straight. Sorry for the reach. Put it down. Make sure it's lined up. So I'm using the bottom part here to make sure it's level here, and making sure that I've lined it up on the same all the way up to the top. Okay. Hold down your ruler real good and trim away. So I'm just going to cut this off. All right. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side, and I'm going to put my 1/4 inch just above the very bottom of the hearts, and use the side of my card here to make sure I'm cutting even. I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. Line up my bottom and put my ruler, line it up just above the bottom of the hearts on this side. Trim it, and do the same thing here. Line it up here, so I'm good at the top. And oops, slipped. Push down and trim. Okay, so I've got this trimmed down. All right, so I used my word processor and printed out something that I'm going to put on the back of this card that we just stitched out. And I don't want you to see it quite yet. So I'm going to trim this up. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the front. And I took my paper that I had, my cardstock that I had printed on, my text that I want to put on the back. And here's the back. Unlike toilet paper, so it says, I love you. Unlike toilet paper, my love will never run out. Yeah, my husband's getting this. All right, so now it will fit inside your 5.5 just fine. Your 5 1/4 by 7.5. Now you could have cut this a little bit bigger and then trimmed your back cardstock to fit. And that's all I did. I just trimmed it to fit. And then I put double-sided tape, this double-sided tape, on all 4 corners, in the center here and here. And then I put 2 pieces here, center here and here also. And I just laid it down on there. You could leave it out a little bit on the margins, and then put your ruler on after you've adhered it and trim it. But I find it easier to trim it up. I did trim just a little bit off this edge, but there it is, finished. I love you. Unlike toilet paper, my love will never run out. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will include this file right here in the zip file for you. So enjoy, have fun. If you make this card, please post a picture on my Facebook group so we can see it. I would really appreciate it. Just like all my designs, if you stitch them out, I would love it if you would post them on my Facebook group, Regina's Crafting and More. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. I just wanted to show you, I did a little experiment. This is one of my test pieces that I did earlier, and I didn't like this stitched so close together. It just made it look too busy. So what I did was I took and trimmed off at the stitch line of the tack down for the card. Now, I want to show you that if you do that, then you're going to cut your back piece, you know, to fit back here. And it gives you a little bit bigger card that still, in fact, fits right inside this envelope that's 5 1/4 by 7 1/4 that I got at Hobby Lobby I showed you earlier. So if you, so here's the one, I'm going to include this on the file. Here's the one that I stitched earlier. So actually you don't even have to do anything except cut right along that stitch line and line it up, cut there, cut down your stitch line, and let's just make sure that this one's going to fit too. It should, because I didn't do anything other than just redo the design. It fits just fine. Okay, so that stitch line will be very beneficial when you're cutting out the card, just to have a two-sided. So you would put your whatever color you want to put back here, and see, I didn't trim this, I didn't pull this stabilizer off all the way because I didn't I wasn't gonna do anything with this. So you would need to tear off your stabilizer before you trim. Okay, all right, thanks again. There it is one more time. Hi y'all. So I'm going to show you how that I Love You or the Windows to My Heart card stitches out without the fill in the heart. All right. So I've put my cardstock, I've cut my cardstock, I've marked my center points, and I just want to make sure that where I've placed it is good. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm getting really good at this. Hello. Super. Just need to scooch it up just a tiny little bit. There we go. All right, so I scooted it up to match up my center seams, which the center notches, which actually are center, where the other notches are not center. Make sure I didn't mess it up. Still good. All right, so I brought up my other design that is more of a red work type design. It's not filled, and I need to change thread. All right, so I've got my design. Oops, don't quite have my design up. Sorry about that. Get that pulled up, set, embroider. And I need to center my design because when it comes up, is it centered? No. All right, so I need to go to layout, move. I'm going to go over one and down to right there, and I think that's good. Okay. All right, so I've got it centered in my cardstock. And once again, I'm using a half of a page. You could do this on the full page, so you could, all right, so we're going to pretend this is the full page. Okay, so that's a full page, and you've just folded it in half. And you want to stitch here, so you would open it up and lay the whole card in there like that. Okay. All right, so I'm going to do the tack down stitch, and I like to move it over to start where it's supposed to start. Oh, and this is backwards. Okay, I'll just deal with it. I just don't like to stitch them where they're facing the other way, but that's okay. I can handle it. Just a little quirk of mine. And this still has the little tiny hearts. Oh dear me. I didn't enlarge them. Okay, well, we'll deal with that, and I'll enlarge them before I post the file. bigger hearts on this, and not these little tiny ones. I will make that change before I post them. Before this goes any further, I have to take this thread out. Okay, so I don't forget. All right, let me lower this a little bit. All right, just so y'all know, this is a one-man band show. It's just me. I do the filming, I do the editing, I do the digitizing, I do the stitching, I do it all. And it would help if you would like and share my videos too. I would appreciate it greatly. Alright, I'll be right back. Alright, so I neglected to move my tack down stitch up so it would stitch first. And so I am stitching it now, and then I'm going to back up. So color number 1 is going to stitch your tack down, and color number 2 is going to stitch your frame around the design. And I've made those, yeah, we're not finished. So I've made those changes. Alright, so now I'm going to do the heart. So once again, I'm going to remind you, I have a 65-9 needle, and it's much better. I also have increased the size of this heart, so it's not so tiny. It looks much better, as you saw on the other card. So now I have my red in, and I'm going to stitch the heart. Now there will not be a motif fill or any fill on this. It's just the outline, like thread work. And I'm going to trim this little tail. Okay, so it's more like red work than anything. The flowers will be filled, and the heart, the arrow will be filled, but not the heart. Sorry. I'm going to get a little closer so you can see what it's doing. So it's just doing an echo line of the ends on the inside of the heart. Now it's going to do the little wavy line on the inside. And it's doing a triple stitch for this. And I am still using the tearaway stabilizer. This is the Pellin Stitch and Tear. Alright, so the heart is finished. I've put my green thread in to stitch the stems. And this is a real fast stitching. It also is a triple stitch. I'll get that in a minute. Get it out of the way. And that's all there is to the green. And I am going to trim these threads before we go any further. Get that one, and get this one to come up and trim it. Come on, hello. I've changed threads to yellow to stitch the flowers, and I want to go over the stitch sequence again. Your color number 1 is going to do the tack down of your cardstock. Color number 2 is going to do the frame around the design. Color number 3 is the heart. Color number 4 is the stems, and color number 5 is the flowers. I need to try to get this end up getting stitched over it. There we go. And this is, like I said, more of a thread work type design where it's just line stitching. It's really not a fill, so to speak, you know, quote unquote fill. It's just line stitching. Now my machine says total stitch time at 600 stitches per minute is 11 minutes. So that's how long it would take to stitch this card. Very quick stitching on this one. I'll be right back. Alright, I'm just about finished with the flowers at the bottom. Alright. I've changed to a hot pink for the fills for the center of the flower. Now once again, I want to remind you that this frame will have larger hearts, just like the other card that I already showed you that when I stitched it out. And one more center, and then it will be doing the arrow, I believe. I've changed thread to a silver for the arrow. And here you can do this in any color you choose. So it's doing the inside of the arrow, which I need to go swap the steps, stitching steps for the other card. And I need to swap the in and out on that. Okay. Got some changing to do. Alright, it's going to do the bottom part of the arrow. So I'm pulling it out so you can kind of get a bird's eye view of it. I've changed to a hot pink for the text. I used red on the other card. I'm going to do hot pink here. And cut that thread so I don't end up with something I got to move out of there. Okay, so whoops, that cut real short. Fuck me. I don't know what happened here. Let me pull this out. Oh. Get a hold of it. Okay, so what's going on? What is happening here? Oh, that's why. Thread got caught up at the top. Let me put my little thing on top. That's why. Okay, fix that. Alright, so let me back up a couple of... Alright. Thread got caught up at the top because I didn't have that little spool on top of the thread. Oh, geesh. Alright. And another one bites the dust. Another needle bites the dust. Alright. I think we're back on track. Got my thread situation fixed, I think. Up at the top, it got hung up. And I didn't completely undo it. Alright, so that's love. Now we just have one more word, you, and we will be done. Now you don't have to stitch this. You could skip stitching the I love you and write whatever you want in there. I think I said that on the other one that has the motif fill on the heart and everything. And one more letter. That should be it. Oh, the I. I forgot the I. I guess you could just put love you. Now you could also leave it out and insert your own text that you kind of have to move around a little bit if your machine allows you to do that. All right, so there we are. There you go. I love you. And the heart's different, is it? Because it doesn't have the fill, so you get a different look. And I will cut this down and put it back. All right, I have unhooped my greeting card, and I'm just going to trim it right below that stitch line. Or probably going to cut right on that stitch line. Yep. All right, so I'm going to go over here and turn it. Trying to keep it in the camera so you can see it. And I'm going to just cut on all sides right on that stitch line. I don't have to worry about that tearaway stabilizer. Okay.
Your first witness. Eli Baron's body was found in the stairwell of the apartment building. Did you determine who shot him? Yeah, the Superintendent Virgil Gilbert. Did Mr. Gilbert tell you why he fired his weapon? Eli had kicked in his door. Mr. Gilbert
got
thought
a little piece sticking here.
Someone filmed the incident?
That.
Yeah. Did you obtain a copy of that video?
Objection. The video was obtained in violation of the Fourth Amendment's
All right.
protections against
So,
unlawful search
the
and
goal is
seizures.
to make sure it goes inside this card. And with the tack down stitch, it fits right in, envelope. It fits right inside the envelope. Alright, so we still have the cutaway stabilizer on here, and it doesn't make any difference, and I nicked that in the wrong place, so I'm going to just take a tiny little bit off this edge. So I'm lining it up,
The Fourth Amendment only applies to property that has been seized by the government.
I think I got my ruler sideways. Okay, take that off. Alright, so now is to see if my saying on the back will fit in here.
Therefore, the phone was obtained illegally and its contents must be suppressed.
Go over. You know what I'm going to do?
Your Honor.
Your witnesses will be allowed to testify to what they saw when the door was kicked in. But you can't play the video.
I am going to use, sorry, I'm going to use my light box, see if that helps, or my light pad. Ah, looky there, I can see it. So I just tested this on another piece of paper to make sure, and it's going to fit. I'm going to make it, I'm going to go back into my word processor, and I'm going to make my saying just a little bit smaller. Alright, I went into my word processor and changed the size of the font so that hopefully you can see through it. It fits right inside the frame because I'm going to cut this on the back. So, hang on a minute. Alright, alright, so I resized my text so that I could fit it right inside, and hopefully you can see if is up here, the edge goes over there. I'm going to scoot this over a little bit, and it fits just inside this part right here. So I'm going to make a couple of little marks so I can trim this. So I'm just going to gently go around here. And those of you that do cards all the time, you probably can figure out a different method. I don't make cards. I create this, and it's very rudimentary for me. All right, so I have my line. I'm going to cut this out. Turn this off. Whew, goodness, that's right. All right, so I'm going to cut just inside that, and this is a pink piece of cardstock, a really light pink piece of cardstock. So let's see here. There's my line. Okay. Lining it up on the side. I'm just not creative enough on the card side, but I can make those little designs for you that make cards all the time. Okay, why isn't this? This is my older rotary cutter. Let me cut through this again. I just can't press hard enough. There we go. Alright, so let me cut this side down. I'm just going just inside that. Lining it up. Okay. Do the same thing on this side. You know, y'all could cut this down closer to the hearts and put another piece of pretty paper behind it and attach it, and then do the same thing with the back. I'm just showing you an easy way to do this. Where's my line? There's my line. just not cutting well. There we go. Well, I'm going to have to trim it off because I cut. All right, now maybe I'll get it. There we go. All right. So I could take this cardstock and adhere it to the back of this, and it'll have to be trimmed just a little bit. So I'm going to put some double-sided tape. Where did it go? I just saw it. Put some double-sided tape on this. And I'm going to stick it in the corners. You know what? I'm going to tear this stabilizer off. That's on the outside of the frame. So this will adhere better. And I'm pulling it towards the inside gently, kind of pressing down on that little heart frame so that we don't have any threads. Well, that works much easier. Okay. One good thing about these salon nails is they're pretty darn strong and can withstand a lot. Okay. All right, so I've got that off the edges. So I'm going to put my double-sided tape along this edge and the corner. Just taking some little pieces. Put one in the middle. Well, I don't need that one on there. Oh, come on, really? There we go. Put this in the middle, on the corner. And this stuff is pretty strong, so that one in the middle. I'd love to see what y'all do with them. I mean, I know they can, this is just a quick and easy card. Doesn't take long for the design to stitch out. And I need one in the middle there. And not a lot of prep work or whatever. I'll take a little bit longer one and put right here. And a little bit longer one and put right here. And then my cardstock, I'm going to center. Whoop, 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 I'm getting stuck. All right, so go away, go away. Okay. Let's see here, we're going to center it. Like so. All right. All right, so I've got that on, and I'm going to do some trimming, just slightly, if I can get enough. No, oh, come on, really? I just want to do a little bit of trimming. Be nice. All right, I'm going to put my weight on it. Well, all right. I'm just going to trim this side up just a teensy bit. Got my line on here. Yep. Okay. Right. A little bit more. sure it doesn't move. All right, so if I could reach up and hold a star for every time you made me smile, the entire sky would be in my palm. So there's your card. A very quick and easy card. Sorry. I hope you enjoy this card and find it easy to make, and post a picture on my Facebook group, Regina's Crafting and More, so I can see what you're doing with it. And I'll include this in the zip file in case you want to use this. All right, thank you for watching. Have a good day. Hi, y'all. All right, so I've showed you how to do the 5x7 Windows to My Heart Valentine greeting card. I'm going to show you the 4x4 because it's stitched out and put together on a smaller cardstock. So hang on. All right, so for the 4x4, I'm using what is essentially half of my small greeting cards that I got at Hobby Lobby. They're already scored in here to use them. They were in a package like these envelopes. This is just envelopes though, but they came in a package like this, and there was this cream color, a white, and a gray, which I don't have, a very, very faint gray color, and they had all the envelopes to go with them. So at some point in time, I've cut one to use it for a test instead of cutting regular cardstock that I have a whole lot of. Now, it measures, when it's open, it measures, is this it? No, this is not it. Hold on. I'm just going to show you how to do a shortcut if you didn't have these smaller cards. All right, so this small blank card is 8 by 5.5. Move this up a little bit. Okay, 8 by 5.5. And when you turn it over, this is 4 across this way, and 5.5 down, a high. Okay, so if you don't have these, you can take a regular piece of cardstock like this. You can cut it in half this way, and it gives you this that you can fold, and you'll have to trim a little bit because it is a little bit wider, okay? But if you have a little bit larger, or you know how to make envelopes, you could just use this. So I don't know how to make envelopes. I have to look that up. All right, so let me put these cards back over here. And so this is what we're going to make. I've already taken my small cardstock and I cut a piece of paper about 1/4 of an inch smaller than the cardstock. This is how big my design's going to be when I trim it out. I'm going to line it up on the line underneath the hearts. I'll show you here. So I'm going to line it up with this line and trim it after I stitch it onto this cardstock. And then I'm going to put it right in the center right here. Now, I think I've told you numerous times, I'm not a real creative on making cards. I've seen some beautiful cards that people make. So if you are, I can really appreciate what you do. So I'm just creating the designs and trying to present them in a reasonable fashion. So I've taken half of my greeting card that I stitched, or you can take half, here it is, a half of cardstock, okay? So you could take the half of the cardstock, fold it over, cut this in half, and then you're going to have what you need to stitch this small greeting card that comes with the envelopes. All right, so I've taken the half of the greeting card that I had left, and I marked it so I'd know the centers. So this, all right, the stupid physical therapy sent a text and cut my video off. All right, so let me move these over. So I took the half of the small greeting card and cut it in half. I marked the edges so I could get centered on in my hoop, and the edges you would mark at the 4-inch on the horizontal, and 2 3/4 here and here at the top and the bottom. So just put a little tiny mark. All right, so let me move this out of the way. Sorry. All right, so I put it in my hoop, and remember what I told you yesterday. These little notches in the hoops are not the center. Well, let me back up. The ones going horizontal are the center. The ones going vertical aren't, which explains why I had so much trouble a long time ago trying to center my design. So that's why you want to use these little notches when you're putting your scrap piece of paper down here. So what I have determined on my hoop is that just barely to the other side of these notches is the center. So when I use my template, okay, so I scooted it over just a little too far, you know, I want to be as precise as I can so I have enough for trimming down. Oops, got it on the wrong way. So make sure you put your hoop on the right, your template on the right way. So now it's centered. So this, on the template, you can see where it sits on the other side of these notches, and that is your center, just the other side of the notches. Now, why couldn't they have made it like they did on the horizontal line? The notches are center. All right, so now that we have our center on our cardstock, and I'm just going to redo that. That's one thing you have to be really careful of. I'm just going to lay it down this way, and I'm okay. All right, so we're going to go to the machine, and we're going to stitch this. And this is what I've come up with. So I took a piece of paper, and I cut it a little more than 1/8 of an inch smaller, and you'll just have to play with it and see what you get on this 8 by 5.5. Remember? Okay, so it ends up being 4 by 5.5. So this is how the design is going to stitch out, and this is what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to center my design right in the middle, and then you can, print from your word processor or write a little verse or whatever you want for the inside and decorate the inside however you want. But that's what we're going to end up with. Hang on. All right, I'm at the machine. I'm using my cutaway stabilizer, and you may have noticed that it looked a little weird. It's because I'm using some scraps. I'm using the hoop that has the shelf liner on it because I want it to really hold. So the first stitch, the first color that stitches is just a tack down to hold the card. So you could put some tape on the back of this, but when you're trying to center it, okay, so that's off the card. I must not have the card centered. Okay, so I didn't quite have that card centered, but that's okay. It went off a little bit because I'm crooked. Well, the card's crooked. All right, so now the second color is the frame. We're just going to stitch it. So I am, on my machine, I'm at 600 stitches per minute. And it says it takes 6 minutes to stitch this card. That's without any issues you might have with your thread or changing thread colors. Okay, so I'll be back so you don't have to watch a whole 6 minutes. Alright, it's just finishing the frame. Get this out of the way. And I'm going to change color. Alright, I've changed to a dark red, and this is going to stitch just the heart. Now, this particular version is just the outline of the heart. It doesn't stitch the little, what I call, windows. And I'm trying to keep my tail out of the way. Trim this tail. So it doesn't stitch the windows. It just stitches like red work. If you're from that era, it was always called red work, no matter what color you did. Now, I'm using a 65/9 needle also. I want to let you know that. I think I said that in the 5x7 version. Change threads. All right, so this is a really fast stitch. It's color stock number 4, and this is just stitching the stem of the flowers. Stop. Get this thread. And that's all there is to the green. Alright, I'm trying with a shorter tail, see what happens. And this is getting ready to stitch the flowers. So we'll do the flowers at the top left of the heart, and then we'll jump down and do the flowers down here. Finish the flowers at the top, and it's going to the bottom to do those. This again is color stock number 5, which I put in yellow. You can use whatever color you want for your flowers. You could do the whole thing in red if you wanted to. Alright, so it's just about finished. Doing the second flower right now. And we're done with the second flower. All right, I put in a hot pink for the centers of the flowers. And it's just a little bit, but it does kind of make that flower pop. And you could just leave in your yellow thread and let it do yellow in the center if you wanted. You don't have to change threads. This isn't much stitching whatsoever, just a little bit of a color there. So the center of the flowers was color stop number 6, and I'm getting ready to do color stop number 7, which is the arrow, and I've put in a silver color. So when you resize these designs, everything gets a little smaller, so the center of these flowers has very few little stitches because it readjusts automatically. I need to swap that. I forgot to swap that to start back up there so it wouldn't have a cut there. I will go make that change. Alright, so I'm going to do the feathers, if you will. You could use any color you want. Once again, this is just what I picked. Alright, and I'm going to change for the I love you. Alright, I've decided to do it in a hot pink. I think I did it in red the last time on the larger card. And this will be fast because, like I said, everything's smaller. Alright, so I finished the I love you. Camera text or something came in and it stopped again. So I finished the I love you. Everything's done. Now we just have to cut it out. Alright, back at the craft table, my cutting table. I'm going to unhook this. And I'm going to tear off. Oh, oops. Yeah, that's alright. Tear off. Okay, it just wants to tear at the. Alright, I'm not going to tear off. I'm going to cut off. Oh, shoot. We'll just do it the easy way. Alright, I'm going to cut off the outside part of the card. I'll get rid of all the stabilizer that can now go in the trash. And you know what? So I'm going to center. Whoops, sorry, I'm not in the middle here. Sorry about that. So I'm going to line up on the line underneath the hearts with my 1/4 inch. You know, I'm going to do 3/8 and see what happens. I may have to trim off a little bit more. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to have to trim off. So let's go to back to a 1/4 inch. Okay, so I'm going to line up on the line here, and I'm going to line up on the line right there. Just barely above it. Okay, move that out of the way. I'm going to line up on the line on the side underneath the hearts, and I'm going to line up on the line at the top here, right barely above it. Cut that off, and I'm going to do the same thing here, lining up on the line underneath the hearts, which is this line right here. Okay, get it down here where I can get it moved. So I'm lined up down at the bottom. I'm going to scooch over and I'm going to line up right under the line right under the hearts up here on this side. Okay. And let me just double check this one. Lining up. Lining up. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to take my card and I can put it on here to see if I want to take any more off. And I think that's going to be okay. Got a little bit on each side. So I'm going to take I am going to try to tear off my cutaway stabilizer. And I think I'm going to use a pair of scissors to do that with. I'm going to take that off so that when I put I'm using my duckbill scissors, my applique scissors actually. Okay, so I want to take off the stabilizer that is just this side of the hearts, because I want that double sticky tape to stick. Okay. So I'm just folding this back a little bit. Want it to actually have some adherence on the card. I don't know how that'll work if that stabilizer is on there. Okay. All right, so I've done that. I'm going to take my double-sided sticky tape. I'll put some on each side. Boy, I wish I could see that tape better. Okay, so I've got it there. Scoot over a little bit. Keep getting away from out of the camera. All right, I'm going to put a piece right here. I'm just kind of holding the tape over the card to get an idea how long to make it. Okay, I know there's a little roller that you can do, and I have one of those, but to me it doesn't stick very well. That's just me. Since I found this tape, I really like it. All right, so let's see about getting it centered on here now. Because I've got that sticky tape on the back. Okay, this one's not down good enough when I put it on. Let me try it again. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. That looks good to me. And there is the 4x4 design of the window hearts, but this isn't the one that has the little windows stitched in it, like this one. So here's the 5x7, and here's the 4x4. Or we can go this way so you can get an idea of the difference. There's the 5x7 of the same card right here. All right, enjoy. Let me see your creations. Please post on my group so I can see what you're doing. These I just call my little quickie card, because remember, we have the little saying on the back. And on this one, I put on here, if I could reach up and hold a star for every time you'd made me smile, the entire sky would be in my palm. So I like that. And I just think this one's so funny. I love you. Unlike toilet paper, my love will never run out. So I think those are cute. That's just my little quickie cards. All right. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Don't forget to like and share, subscribe. Check out my group, Regina's Crafting and More on Facebook, and my Etsy shop, same thing, Regina's Crafting and More. I'll put links below. Bye-bye.